So with this whole Xbox PlayStation conversation, it appears that things are starting to materialize. I've mentioned some of them in my past videos, but I think right now seeing it has kind of started to rub a little weird on fans. Now, even Microsoft themselves have realized that there's an opportunity here, so they decided that, they were going to also go ahead, throw a little bit of shade into the whole PlayStation dominance in terms of having access to games outside of their first party games. And now the conversation has changed. I remember when I was talking a little bit about this Microsoft and Activision stuff, and I said, guys, it's not only the Activision stuff that people should be looking at. The temperature is changing in the military settings, or like when I went to military school in my middle and high school days, we used to say the parade has changed. Basically, if a new commander came on the parade ground and he had a different tempo and he was in high rank, he would basically run the parade as, he pleased. And I think right now the parade has changed, and no longer does Sony have this so-called dominance in being able to maintain access to these games from some of their partners that are from the Japan and Eastern regions like they've had before. One example here that we're seeing is with Street Fighter 6. Street Fighter 5, many of you remember, or maybe you don't know, is actually a PlayStation 5 console exclusive. It doesn't exist on the Xbox. Yet, Street Fighter 6 is not only going to be on the Xbox, but Capcom is using the Azure PlayFab system, which is one of their server, systems that you can use for actually hosting and running your video games. So the partnership is not just on a, let's publish our games on your platform, but let's actually use your technology to actually run some of our games. So this is wild if you were to ask me how this is starting to change. Now, you might say, well, this is just one change. I mean, what in the world is going on? Well, this pushes us to the story, or at least to this particular aspect here, where right after the PlayStation showcase, this was wild, by the way. I mean, Xbox, whoever is handling the Xbox account, went into petty mode, and went ahead and posted this stuff and said, what a good looking group. Basically, a small shot containing every single game that's going to be available on the Xbox that was unveiled today at the PlayStation showcase. They showed the Immortals of Evium. They showed the Ghost Runner 2 Marathon, which is Bungie's game. Bungie is now under PlayStation, but Bungie is not going to do that exclusive stuff. That's not how they roll, because they realize that with items like, or aspects like crossplay, cross-platform, cross-saves, they can make a lot more money. They've tested that thing out from the Destiny days, and they're going to look at Sony and just slap them on their hand like, don't do that. It's going to basically hold us back. And I don't think Bungie signed that agreement, because I'm sure Bungie has a clause of we can dip out even in that agreement as much as you. I mean, I'm sure. I can say with a high level of certainty, I shouldn't say I'm sure, because I didn't see that agreement. Let me just say with a high level of certainty, because they were able to negotiate their way outside of Microsoft, a major publisher, and then also outside of Activision. So I don't see them going into Sony with their eyes closed and, going in with open arms and saying, yeah, own us. That's not happening. Metal Gear Solid, 3, I think this is Snake Eater. The remake also going to be on Xbox. Dragon's Dogma 2, a Capcom game, also going to be on the Xbox. Alan Wake 2, that was also always going to, for the most part, kind of spread its wings. Even though when they showed some of these trailers, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, they put available on the PS5. Now, I can get it because, they're just doing their own PS5 thing. So that kind of gave some people the impression that these were going to be coming. But when I saw the, Ubisoft Assassin's Creed Mirage, that's when I knew that there were some general titles that would also be coming as well. Now, if you even want to go ahead and say, okay, but where is more evidence? I got you. Some of you may remember, or maybe some of you may not remember, that also another Capcom title made its way to Game Pass. This was Monster Hunter Rise. And this was one that really kind of surprised me in a sense, because I'd been looking at these relationships between, Sony and some of these, publishers. Now, if you look at that list again, too, you'll see Konami is also here. They don't necessarily seem like, they want to stay exclusive, because they understand that now they're in a position where it doesn't matter how much money Sony wants to pretty much put up in terms of kind of keeping them on their own platform exclusively, they're capable of making more money when it comes down to, being on multiple platforms. Even Microsoft understands that if they acquire Activision, that leaving the games on PlayStation is still going to make them a lot of money. So I think Sony's business model is starting to receive some of the cracks in its hairline, but they also have strategies that they can use to close the gap, which is good, which is exactly what we want. Now, some people might think, oh, this is another anti-Sony video. I don't make anti-Sony videos. I already have an animus against their business proposition, so I don't need to make a video about it, but I can show the reality and even tell you how Sony is responding if you would look at, say, their new device that was announced today. Now, that device is one that I think is another measure for them to be able to bring a different aspect to things, even though I think it's a little bit too late to the discussion. Now, as much as this particular device called Project Q is really going to serve PlayStation's needs, some of you may or may not know how that is going to happen, but if you just think about it as pretty much playing the role of a PlayStation console, but now a handheld version that they can now use to lock people more into PlayStation's ecosystem, it has to contend with already established handhelds like the Nintendo Switch, which is designed to lock people into Nintendo's system, and the Steam Deck, which is designed to expand your reach in terms of being able to access your PC library. So most Steam users will never buy this device. Most PlayStation users, would look at it and say this is nice, but we're not certain who all is going to be paying money for this. I, for one, will not spend money on this device, but it is Sony's way of responding to saying we're doubling down on our, commitment to want to keep people in our ecosystem. And this is kind of a business response from them to kind of also garner that market. Now, if they decide to bring their own PlayStation PC store where they can start launching day one games, then they might be able to get some kind of goodwill from people who would say, no problem, we'll buy one more PlayStation device, and so on and so forth. Or maybe this might be the middle ground from people who are on PC who may say, well, maybe I don't want to buy a PlayStation console. I might want to carry something like this, but I don't see many PC players spending money on this as well. You never know. There are a lot of guys who like to get devices as they come out. I know some heavy hitters, some heavy spenders that when it comes to a new device, they're going to be on board and getting it. But I don't think I'm getting this device on the forefront. I think what's going to happen is a Steam Deck first for me. And then if I have any reason to want to look at this, I'll probably go ahead and, probably take a second look at the, device itself. But with all of these going on, it appears to me that now the parade has changed. And in recognizing it, you as a gamer will be able to know exactly how to position yourself or exactly who has the best value proposition for you. Sony's business model was never going to remain sustainable. There's even the conversation now as well of the live service games, which I'm going to push aside for a separate video because I'm sure that's one that's really important on the minds of a lot of people out there. But we'll have to talk about that separately. I'm glad now the conversation is coming up, but this was something that was always inevitable. They were going to always have to try to shift grounds as soon as possible. But anyways, that's pretty much what I have for now. Thanks so much for watching the video. I appreciate you guys' time and audience, and hopefully we can talk pretty soon in another one. Peace out.